All right, so this is the next part where we're going to look at error handling. So if you recall, last time we had the problem of when we ran our code, our app, when we change this data set, we get this ugly error right here. So there are many ways to get around this. I'll just remove these. Really, I go for a very simple approach. It might not be best practice, but I really like it. So that's what I will do. So our problem here is that when we change the data set, it changes just under, we can't really choose this, but it changes first. Well, of course, the data is that's what changes first. So now it says, if I go from empty cars to iris, right? It says, okay, now you were empty cars. Now you are going to be iris data. But in here, it's still asking for show me the miles per gallon for the iris data, and obviously that gives us an error. That's what it says right here. Infinite. We need finite excellent values. Well, it just means it cannot be nothing. This doesn't exist. So we don't want this plot to react. We only want it to react if the data that's in here, or the column name that's being called here, is within the data list or the data that's being used. Now, Shiny has a lot of functions for this. Validation, it has a validate, that's the one function it uses, and there you can put the need in, and then you run it, and it outputs a label if it's wrong. You have request, where it's you need some kind of input before you run it. These are all great. It just means that if these requirements or needs or whatever aren't what's it called? If they're not okay, if they're not true, you could say, then it doesn't run the rest of the code. I'm kind of old school. I like if statements, and it might not be the very best of the best practices because, I don't know if it's slower or if whatever it is, but I like them and they work and they're reliable, so I'm going to use them. That's how it is. So I say, I just want this to run when we have the correct column names, right? So I say, well, the column name of x-axis should be in, so this just means like it should be within another set of vector of names, right? Well, the names I want is data list, and I want the input data select. All right, and I want this to run for the whole shebang here. So auto indent that. So what it says now is, I render the plot if, and you will run this plot function here if the name that's right here, so that could be miles per gallon or something, is also within the column names of the data set that's being selected. So let's see if this works. All right, so I saw something red there, but that might not be the problem. Hey, it's not a problem. Now it's fixed. See this? So that red one in the very start of the app might come back to it. Right now, we fixed the thing that we talked about here. And that was the error here every time we changed this. So that's fixed because now it only runs or updates, you could say, when, well, the names that are here correspond to whatever data set we've selected. Good. All right, so there might be some hardcore artists or coders or programmers out there that are screaming at me right now because I'm calling functions left, right. Like, how often do I call this one? 1, 2, 3 times is this one called, and the data list, we bury into the data list so many times. We really just want this to be a variables or something that is stored and we can just access it more easily. So really, this isn't a really, like, having 3 times this isn't detrimental to the app really, but like for argument's sake, let's say we wanna refactor this into something more useful. So this is where reactive values come in. So there are many types of reactive values in Shiny, and or like reactive functions. We can have just called reactive, and that means the code that's within these curly brackets here will be run every time something changes within it. So if we have input data select here, and then we have 1 plus 1 or something like that, right? That means every time input data select changes, 1 plus 1 will run. Now, I don't know why we would want that, but it also takes the last thing that's here is now outputted from this reactive. That means if we say x, then input data select is, if we change input data select, it will run this whole segment again, and, well, it will output 2. It will always output 2, but, I mean, say if we had something else, like input number here, b number, or something, right? So this reactor would run every time input data select would change, or it would run every time input number would change, if we had that input. There are some other reactive ways we can do this. We have event reactive. We have we can bypass the reactive object that's created by using something called observe event. We will most likely come back to this later. Right now, just for demonstration purposes, I will use reactive. So I want to, instead of having to call the names 3 times, here, here, and here, do it here, and here, and I do it here. I just want it to be stored in a reactive. So we just say columns is now reactive. And what is it? Well, we will pretty much actually just run this code once in the top. And like this, yes. I'll just copy paste it over here. And then we'll say wherever it says you, we'll say you are columns. And now this won't work. And this is a thing that's kind of special, I guess, about the reactive, or something that you just have to remember that reactive is pretty much a function, really. And functions in R have to end with what's it called? Parentheses, like this, like an end call. This is the call. They don't take any arguments, but if you just call this, you get an reactive object, but you don't get the result of the reactive object. If you run it with the end parentheses like this, you get the results. And what are the results? Well, it's the last line that's in this reactive function. And because we only have one line, it will output the names of the data that we're selecting. So what this allows us now is, instead of running or asking R to run this function, the names function, like 3 times, it just has to run it once, and then we use the result wherever it was before. Should we see if this works? Let's hope it does, or else I will be embarrassed. Okay, Iris, it changed the names, and it changed this one as well. Well, look at this. It changed everything. I think it all works. Yep, it does. I mean, of course, I can't see the difference right now. I mean, it works exactly the same way, but I guess you could argue that it is marginally, like 0.1%, 0.01% faster now, because we stored the, what's it called? The column names in here. All right, so that was errors, and it was reactive values, or at least one kind of reactive values. We'll get to more types of reactive values, more events, and more more stuff that you can do with it. We're gonna build this into something big, I think. Right? So thank you for watching. See you next time.